excited. I haven't spoken on up front in physicality for quite some time. I'm on the internet a lot, and really I don't see much difference in terms of the reality, whether I'm on Facebook or here, because the energy is the same. It comes through us. And for me, when I speak or write, I speak the energy of we. When I sit down and write, I write twice a day. On Facebook, I just remind you, I paint a picture, and it's this picture that we present, we being you and the company of heaven, and and this is presented through this fellow I created, Nicky, right? I created this fellow, and he's a delightful fellow. He's clumsy. He likes to talk. He likes to light up. That's what I came here for, and this is why you came here. Every one of you is here, and here at this meeting because you were supposed to. You have chosen it. So the picture I paint is a picture, and you will get your own picture. And all I ask for you is to be open. You can toss out what doesn't fit when you leave, but just be open. And it's not open to me, it's open to we. It's open to the you, or I am open to the me of we. You are open to the you of we, because we have never, ever been alone. Never. Since the moment before you were born, but you brought it with you. And all that happened is we forgot. And we chose to forget. Why? In order to remember. To remember two things. One, that we are free, that we are free will beings in a free will universe, and we get to choose. Every moment we get to choose. And you brought in with you. What I see is a great gathering here. Not just you in person, but each one of you has an entourage. You have an entourage of beings. And if you care to look and feel, it goes back and back and back out into the expanse. So as we gather here, it's an amazing gathering. It's like an amphitheater with layers and layers of beings, of light. That's what I see. And you don't have to see it. Be like the child. And what does the child do when they play? They pretend. All you need to do is pretend. So for this workshop, I want you to pretend. Just pretend. Because as soon as you pretend, and you're free enough to pretend whatever you like, whatever you can imagine, whatever you can think as if is true, you send out a message to your company of heaven, and they pick it up and they start feeding it back to you. You see, you've been in a matrix which has taught you not to believe in yourself, to believe in something out there. And so you forgot. Don't tell me that any baby you see is not from God. Even if they turn out to be the worst criminal on earth as a baby. They are from God, and so are you. I put it in the simplest way possible. I am the point of light within the mind of God. Within the mind of God. And that goes forever. But our mind has to restrict it, so we put it in a circle. You are the point of light within the mind of God. And your field can extend vast, but we call it, say, the aura, and we limit it to the physical, the emotional, and the mental. But that is minuscule, is minuscule compared to who you are. You each are a mighty soul being who has had aeons and aeons and aeons and aeons and aeons of experience. You are soul. And we talk about ascension. Ascension is not going out, it's coming back in. The soul being that you are, coming into embodiment. And that's why all the aches and the pains and the tiredness and the dizziness and all the other things that happen to you. We're all in it. And everybody is facing it to the extent that your soul wants it to be for your experience and your knowing. And what to know? Two things. Free will, your point of choice. And the second thing, or if you like the first thing, is love. The love that you are, the light that you are, to bring your shine. And how do we do that? We invite, we bring in, we breathe in more and more light. But we have been taught that we're alone in this. We have to make our own journey. We have to become the master of ourselves. I was fortunate enough to grow in a family where both my parents were very widely read. And my mother particularly had been a Catholic. She'd rejected Catholicism, and she was a free thinker. She wanted to be, and she always worked at her free thinking. And she became, when we moved from England to New Zealand, the president and secretary of the local lodge, Theosophical Lodge in the Vin. And there was no library, because the library was in Palmerston North, but they had lots of excess books. So we had those in our home. And I was dyslexic. I couldn't read very much at all. My writing was terrible, amazing. I ended up being a writer and an author. So anything is possible. And so I kind of naturally went to certain books. My two favourites were Annie Besant and Leadbeater, because I could relate to those, and they gave me experience. So I learned my theosophy much more through experience, because my mother had read all the things, and we used to stand at Sunday lunchtime when we were I had a big family, and I used to ask questions, and she'd just have all the answers. So she taught me about globes and the logos and all that sort, all the basics of the secret doctrine and all that stuff. And I just loved it, because she put it in words I could understand, and my reading was terrible. The books I did read eventually when I was a teenager were Annie Besant's one, because my own proclivity was to self-awareness, the path of enlightenment. How do you become self-aware? What is self? And so Annie Besant's teaching, especially her small little books that are really hard to understand, painted pictures for me. So I grew up remembering more and more and more. And I was taught eventually, or through my life, by the masters, but not one particular, although in my early years it was Jesus. But I've never channeled anyone, because it's a company of heaven. And if you think now we're standing in this great amphitheatre, and don't look for particular masters, just feel the presences, the golden presences. And as you look, they take a human type form, but they're actually formless, just like your being is formless. It's layer upon layer upon layer of light. And these light weaves intertwine. And love is the same. Love is layer and layer and layer of expansiveness, of softness, of subtleness. And because of the subtleness, most people have difficulty maintaining that contact because the dense is gross. Yeah, yes, and both my parents were very open, allowed me to be the clumsy, exuberant boy I was. But they also allowed me to experience what I experienced. And right from 2 years old, I remember these portals used to appear, and they're like mandalas. And I've written a book on mandalas and the power for them to generate new awarenesses in you. But they were portals, and I'd walk through, and I'd become adult. I'd be in other worlds. So they were vortices, if you like, through dimensions. And so I was allowed to dream. I was allowed to play in it. And I would sit sometimes and just, well, as a 2-year-old, I didn't walk till I was 3 because I was so happy in the world. I could easily go anywhere I liked. And later on, I forgot it when I became a teenager, but those memories have come back to me. So I never really lost it. It never really faded into the light of common day, which is as for most people. But it's available to you now. You have a whole history in this lifetime of closing and looking for beliefs and seeking. But now is the time to take back what you remembered. And it's not a grabbing, it's just an allowing. And so it is acknowledging what you're a part of. I'd like to interpret, if it's like, or give a picture of why we're here. Is that okay? And what it's about. And I'm going to, you will see, if you know theosophy, you will see some of the threads that are very common. But I confess, I've never been a theosophist. I've spoken and I've written articles in the Theosophist many years ago, but I've never been a theosophist. My parents left me the legacy of treading my own path, and that everyone does. And that's what I value. My journey has been to uplift and let people find their own way, because there are so many ways. Each one of you is a unique expression, a unique point of light from the mind of God. So if this is God and all the possible beings, you might be here and here and here. And we make connection with each other and share our points of view. But you are unique. And this universe and the grand thing, which includes the ETs and everyone, and layers of, you call them dimensions. I don't like dimensions too much, the word, because people tend to start counting dimensions, and there's this dimension. It's infinite. It goes on forever and ever and ever, or almost infinite, we'll say, to give it some kind of end, as it were. But it's infinite. The layers and the subtleties of love and light are infinite. And we're part of that. So we came into a non-infinite universe. We chose to come and have experience as souls. And to be in this free will universe, it absolutely required you to experience your own free will. Which means you came and you experienced, even before, not just in physical lifetimes, but in other experiences, other realities. As a soul being, you came to choose. Because before that, light and dark were one. And so it's like a deliberate separation was made for us to be able to experience choice. And the beautiful thing is, by learning to make all these choices for aeons and aeons and aeons through all kinds of realms, this being only one, because your life is very short compared to who you are, it's very short. It'll end just like that, but you won't. You want enlightenment? The quickest way is to die. Okay, so there's this free will. And how was free will created? It was created by making an aspect of this reality that was neutral, that was neither light nor dark. It was made up. And I call that shadow. There was a shadow point, so that you could choose between light and dark. And the object of the game, this vast universal game, is to choose light. And then in the realization of that, it takes in the dark. It becomes blended as one. But in the free will universe, we make choices. So you have to rub up against something to see the contrast in order to have a choice. Does this make sense to you? Yeah. And these are my words. These are Nicky's words from we, and you might conceive it differently. And we're talking about things that can't really be talked about because they're vast. But you come up against shadow. And in the aeons and aeons of experience of soul that you are, you have experienced all kinds of contrasts and had to make choices. And you've been in the dark and made choices. You've been in the light and made choices. And over the aeons and aeons and aeons, those who chose to prefer more dark took on a different mantle. And they became fixated with dark overriding light. So they built up their own tensions, and thus we have, if you like, the negative side of creation. There has to be. If there's a light authority, there's a dark authority. And one of the things people had difficulty with, and especially those on the spiritual path, is acknowledging that there are dark beings, dark entities, and shadow beings. There's a fourth, because they created and decided to take dominion over the shadow. And so they input to the shadow, and the shadow now, and this is why we're having so much trouble on Earth and throughout the galaxy, is because shadow began to take on a consciousness. It had no sentience. The shadow was created as a point of choice with no sentience. But sentience has been added. And so when you walk around, when I walk around, who've been consciously, if you like, on the spiritual path, I don't like that really, who have been consciously on this path, I would say most of my life, I still walk in to a mall, and I like to go in there because I like meeting people, even if I don't actually meet them, seeing humans. because they are beautiful. You know, everyone is so beautiful if you see with those eyes. But I'll come out. Glenn, my wife, likes to shop more than I do, so she may be shopping and I'm wandering in my state of reception and enjoyment. And we come out, sit in the car, and I niggle. Something she says or whatever niggles me. Or vice versa. You know this. And it's like, well, you know it's not you, but it niggles you. I can guarantee that something from somebody has jumped into my auric field. When you have a doubt, you know, you're enthusiastic about something, and you wake up the next day and you have doubts coming in, and am I worthy, you know, is this right? That is shadow being. They're impish and they're continual, and we live in an environment of those shadows. Is this making sense to you? I'm not talking, when I talk about shadow, I'm not talking about the emotional trauma shadow of your life. That's something different. The psychologists talk about that, and people do therapy on that. I'm talking about just the ordinary, everyday life. You can be talking to somebody and they can be very negative, and you come away with that feeling. And we have been taught in the old spiritual way, you're the master, it's your irresponsibility to deal with it. It's reflecting something in you. I'm going to say bar humbug. Yeah. Bar humbug. Sometimes it is, and we've got to be honest with ourselves because we've got an ego. And we've got to be, you know, aware of ego. You can't get rid of it. You've got to be aware of your ego, and it's a great, it's represented by Kali, who's the goddess, but she's the most benign of all because she represents the ego, and she's telling you you're not there. You've forgotten something. What have you forgotten? Love. Love in the heart. So this is a shadow, and this is part of it. Now, the other part of ascension is you're coming in to the body. Heaven and earth are coming together. They're starting to blend, and you're bringing that as you recognize the soul being, the beautiful light soul being that you are right now, up there, coming down into the body. And the body has to change physically. And that's all the ouches and ouches we feel. And the greatest enemy to us is our own fear. Is going into fear over this. Because fear tells you you're not loved. And what are you here for? For love. So you choose. And I have a lot of simple techniques. And many of you know the easiest way is when you feel you're going into fear or doubt, hand on heart. Put your hand on your heart now. One or two of them. And just close your eyes a minute and breathe. It's like, I'm home. I'm home. It's subtle. When you're uptight or somebody's coming at you, to feel that. And feel your smile. Feel your smile. It's like a benign smile. It's not a smile necessarily on your face, but it's a feeling of, here I am, I'm home. This is home. Okay, open your eyes. You can do that any time. The more you do it, the easier it comes and the deeper it goes. You know, it's practice. We have, whatever we practice, we feel is important. We have to do it every day, whatever you choose. Because we're in a field where there's a lot of rubbish going around. There's a lot of these impish beings who have a high authority behind them to stop us acknowledging and bringing in our own light. But this is a whole benign game because you get to choose in any given moment whether you choose love or whether you go into fear. Whether you choose, I am this being. Here's another little exercise. Very simple, but very, very profound. Close your eyes again. Now this is very simple, but very profound if you do it, practice it, if you do it regularly. Now just imagine or think as if you're the watcher, and whatever you feel inside, whatever you think about, whatever is out there, you can see it just for what it is without any judgment here and now. You are this being looking out, even with your eyes closed. You are looking out. Now open your eyes and just see the room and me or whatever's in front of you, and just say to yourself, it's a movie. It's a movie. It's a movie, the bottle's rattling. It's just part of the movie. Right? It's just the movie. No judgment, no reaction, just is. Close your eyes again. Be the being that's watching. Watching the sounds. Watching the feelings in your body. Whatever is, just is. And as you wake up, open your eyes. This is a movie. A movie you created. A movie we've created together, in part. Most of it is yours, because your actual awareness is flicking in and out of it. And if you can remind yourself, like wake up in the morning and just tune in, put your hand on your heart if you like, then tune in to this watcher, and then open your eyes. With practice, it all becomes a movie. Because it's like, have all of you experienced the goggles that they put on for a virtual reality?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have the 3D world? Yeah. Well, if you haven't, you can imagine. You put these on and it looks real. You know, when you're standing up, you find it very hard to stand up. You want to sit down because it's like this world is suddenly there and it looks real. Well, you as a human being have had the virtual set on. And you've been looking at a movie and experiencing the movie. But as soul being, you step back into yourself and you watch. You've taken them off. You've got up out of the chair, armchair. And that is a point of choice that you can make. It's that simple with that exercise. Gradually, it'll get better for you. And it doesn't, people are worried, will stop me being in this world. It doesn't. It makes it richer because you're no longer so caught up in your reactions to the world. And the reactions come from fear. Fears that run deep. Fears that these little mischievous beings will know where they are and will work on it because they're in your field. Is this making sense to you? So a lot of what you're experiencing is not yours. That's a big one. So how do we do it? And the spiritual community is aimed at clearing. You know, you find out what it is, you find out what it's linked to. It might be a past incarnation, ancestral stuff, or a trauma at childhood, and then you clear it. Or you go to a healer, and they clear it. But does it work? Does it stay? No. It's only temporary. I'm not saying that work is of no value, but it's only temporary, because these beings are around all the time, and they'll keep at you. So where do we go? Where do we go? Aha. What did I say in the beginning? Who's with you? The company of heaven. When you pass over, you can see these things. You have the sight. You are a magnificent soul, and you can see your own soul wounds, because the mischievous beings, and if you like the dark side, can't touch you. They can't touch you if you are in contact with this and make use of your company of heaven. Why do you think they're there? Why do you think they've been there all your life? Why do you think they have loved you, regardless of what you've done, regardless of what's happened to you? They love you. You've forgotten that you have free will to choose their help, because they can see what you can't, and they can fix it just like that. I can ask my spirit family, and you can have what you like. You can have angels, you can have masters, you can have Elohim, you can have spiritual surgeons. I have surgeons of my auric field who come in. Sometimes I see them like welding, cutting and welding, light. Sometimes it's just a pure higher light coming in to that place, because they know where it is. I don't see it. I don't have to see it. All they need from me is my ask, my openness, and my love. And they expand on your love at the same time. And what you get from their healing, what you get from their removing the shadow that's jumped in, and it is immediate, because after being niggly with my wife, I just stop and ask, just in my own head, guys, something's in there, remove it please, and remove it and replace it with higher light. And it happens just like that. Next thing, my niggle's gone, because it wasn't mine. It was an entity, if you like, turning knife in one of my wounds, soul wounds. So I'm suggesting to you that you look more to this company of heaven. And we're going to do a little exercise, or a number of exercises, for you to have a little ways of making more contact. Some of you see, some of you just get an impression, some of you hear. You don't have to know or experience anything in particular, just your knowing. Clear gnosis. You've studied long enough, most of you, the spiritual things, whether they be theosophy or otherwise. So you know it's there, but you forget, or you lose confidence. You lose confidence because somebody's getting at you, and you don't have to know who, because they can come from an innocent who's being manipulated to you, jump into your field. It keeps us alert, if you like. Any questions or comments? And for most of you, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. I'm just reminding you of what you do know, because you do. You do. That's why the baby glows, even though it may have had a traumatic birth. It's looking for that light it knows. And we've been searching all our life for that light we know. Well, you got it. You got it here. It's here on earth. It's here so close. You can feel it. And as soon as we stop here, and listen, you feel the silence. And it's a soft, loving silence. And you can begin to feel that more and more, but it's subtle. And it's beyond logic. So it's much better to go into pretend. What did Jesus say? Be ye as little children. Except ye be as little children, ye cannot enter into the kingdom of heaven. To be as a child. And human beings are childlike. The beauty of human beings is this childlike innocence that plays and sees possibility and expands and is looking forward to adventure. And you can do it at nearly 80 like me, or 2. It doesn't matter, it's your choice. And if you go into the fact, well, I've had this hard life and so on, it's over. It's over. If you choose the shadow. The shadow is the piece of dust that gets the pearl in the oyster. That's a tiny bit. It's the itchy, irritating part. And you'll be irritated, and you'll be irritated to make choice. And because we haven't listened, the irritations are pretty big. They're saying, listen, watch, acknowledge how beautiful and amazing you are. We so love you and we so honor you for being here in the trenches. So you're in here in the trenches in this amazing time, and there's a great plan, and you see how things intertwine. Somebody said to me in your conference that she was amazed and felt so appreciative of how the different speakers don't know each other, and yet there's a theme of dovetailing, a coming together, an unfolding of a picture, a story that was so enlightening and profound, if you like, that you've already participated in, if you've been open to. So we're all part of this great plan, and nobody knows what the plan is, not even the masters. They're waiting to see, because it depends on our free will choice. And you can't wait for your free will choice for others to do it. You came here to do it yourself. Why did you come here? What is your main sole purpose, however you express it? To bring in more light, to hold it, not hold it like this, but to hold it in and to share it. To shine your light. I am the way, the truth, and the light. You are, every one of you. However you've experienced. And the beautiful thing is, as human beings, like here, we get to remind each other. But reminding each other is not a long spiel, so I should shut up. It's just being present. Being present with your light shining and feeling good about who you are and what you're a part of and what you're going, what's coming. Because the world of shadows and shadows having rule is going when you choose light and love over fear and victimhood. Regardless, and some of you, many of you have had really tough lives, have been through a lot of trauma. And some of you who've been around for 60 years have been plodding away, giving your life and love, and feeling weary, like what's the point? And yet you still pick yourself up and go again. Bless you. We honor you. And nothing, no love has ever been wasted. Never, not one iota. So many little things we do. I'm lucky enough to have had feedback on many occasions from people 20, 30 years ago who said, you said that, you know, and it's been so helpful to me through these years. And I'm not big nosing myself, I'm just saying we don't know, everyone. You don't know what you've done by the touch of love. And now it's time to fully, honestly, and more enthusiastically love yourself. Love yourself. Like I said, I love this Nicky fellow. Can you say, you know, and this is a childlike quality. It's not the child in me. It is those qualities of children that I am. Be ye as little children. So let's pretend. We'll have a 5-minute break for you to talk to each other, and then we'll go to the next level. Okay?